Hi, today I'm going to show you how to make your UI animations really pop because easing alone would just not do it. So there's quite a few things that you can do to really make an animation pop. So let me just show you this. I'm here in Rive and I've just got this little trash can, and if you click on the trash can, I just want to make it do this little bounce. And as you can see, it's got a lot of personality. And it's actually not that complicated to do. I'm just going to take you through the whole process to create this animation, and you'll see it doesn't even take long. So first thing, I've got the timeline here, and I'm just going to make it a loop, and let's make it 3 seconds is fine. I'm going to start here on the first second. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to use a animation principle called anticipation. So what an anticipation does is basically before we move our little trash can into the air, we're going to sort of make it contract. It's almost like when you jump. Before you take a jump, you basically load your jump. So you load your leg. So I'm going to take this trash can and I'm just going to put keyframes on the scale. And then I'm going to move forward 10 frames. And I'm going to make the X 110 and the Y 90. So whenever, and this is basically, I'm using two animation principles here. I'm using anticipation and I'm using squash and stretch. So one of the most important things when you use squash and stretch is that you should always preserve your volume. So if I go 110 on the X, I should make it 90% on the Y to conserve the volume. That's a very important principle. So now I've got this little trash can, so it's basically loading up for its jump. The very next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the can and I'm going to add my Y keyframe here. And then maybe go to frame 30 and then we just bring it up like that. And then maybe go to frame 50 again and copy it. So now we've got this, but this is looking very boring. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to twirl this down. So I'm just going to go to my position keyframes, and this is where just the normal cubic interpolation or easing won't cut it, because you see it doesn't, just some things not right. So what you want to do is you want to create a bouncing ball effect. So the first keyframe, it should shoot up. So with this one selected, I'm going to bring this handle up to make it steep. And then when it's in the air, it should hang there for a while. Because of the influence of gravity, it stops and then gravity pulls it down. But this is quite a gradual process. So the one in the middle, so if I select this one here is where gravity pulls it down and then it shoots down again. So if I open this up, you can see it creates this type of hyperbola. This is basically like a bouncing ball. So if I animate this, you can see it's already looking much better. So, and the next step, now we want to work on the squash and stretch, because we've got the squash going down here, but we want to bring it into the rest of the animation to make it really pop. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the middle and we're just going to make everything 100 here. And then we're going to go to, and then just as soon as we launch, because it's a very fast launch, we immediately stretch our little character or our little trash can. So we're going to go from this, we're basically going to invert this. So we stretch out, and then immediately, because it's such a fast popping motion, we immediately going to change this around, and we're going to go from X, we make X 90 and Y 110. So you can see if I toggle between these two free keyframes, and then it settles to 100% there. And then the same happens in the inverse. So it moves slowly and then it picks up speed. And then we just take this one here, copy it over, And then for these, we can just use normal cubic interpolation. It should be fine. So what have we got here so far? Let's have a look here. It's already looking nice. Before we continue, I want to tell you about our sponsor for today. Our sponsor for today is drumroll, none other than myself. I've created this course called Rive Rockstar, which is a 17-hour long Rive course, and it's probably the most comprehensive Rive course out there. It includes everything from animation principles up to advanced concepts such as data binding and state machines. Let me show you quickly some of the stuff we'll be creating in this course, just a few samples. We even have some interactive Blender animations, and we also have this arcade game that we're going to create. So go to riverockstar.com now and come join me on the journey of your life. So now the only thing we need to do is now we need to go back to the original position. So I'm going to go to about 30. I'm going to copy the scale keyframes. I'm going to bring them over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little trick. I'm going to select these keyframes and I'm going to create like a sort of elastic interpolation here. So it creates that sort of thing. So everything's looking really dynamic. Then last touch, this is another animation principle. It's called secondary motion. So we want to add some secondary motion. So we're going to take the can or the can lid, and I'm just going to rotate it as we move up. I'm just rotating it so it opens up like that, and then we just close it again. So now we've added some secondary motion, and that's almost done. And just for the final touch, what I want to do is I just want to offset this, because offsetting stuff in animation, it creates very interesting effects, and that's how it would happen in the real life. Is you pop it up and this lid would pop open, but it would maybe it would drag behind a few keyframes. So I'm just going to move the lid so it's not completely in sync. So it's just a small touch. So the lid is sort of lagging behind, the opening and closing of the lid is lagging behind the main movement. And that is basically how we add secondary motion. And also this could also be seen as an animation principle, which is called follow through. And I think one day I'll make a video on how to use all 12 the principles of animation in UI design. But this is basically just in a nutshell how you can make a nice UI animation, make it pop quite nicely. I hope you enjoyed it.